Howdy, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our CERD coffee chat. I'm very excited to introduce Dr. Bruce Herbert. He is a professor of geology and geophysics. He is also the director of the Office of Scholarly Communications at Texas A&M University. As director, he is responsible for strengthening the library's efforts in scholarly communications and open access to engagement and collaboration with the faculty across our campus. Bruce will be presenting on strategies to build your digital identity and enhance your scholarly reputation. Please help me welcome Bruce Herbert.
Hey, thanks everybody. It's good to see everybody. Karen and I got to work on an amazingly large engineering proposal that unfortunately didn't get funded, but I enjoyed that quite a bit. And certainly I've worked with lots of folks and all that great stuff about what I do. I at least do that this week. Don't know about next week, but let's get started. So what I have is a short series of slides. They're not very complicated, but they are actually kind of interesting. And then kind of a show and tell about some of the tools that we have developed in the library to help build your reputation, support things like tenure and promotion, advance your research projects, and improve or enhance the impact of your work overall. And generally, this is pretty open-ended talk. And so if something strikes your interest, or if you had a question, feel free to just jump in and we can talk about it, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen. Let's go to the slides and go through this. And we're gonna go here, slideshow, play from start. Okay, so we're looking at some strategies, and it's gonna be pretty simple, and we advocate for these strategies. So the very first thing, and folks know this that have gone through the tenure and promotion process, but in large part, building a reputation means you have a story to tell, a narrative to tell about why you're doing what you're doing the kind of work that you do, the significance and impact of that work, and that's really important to have that story. This is often when you teach, I'm sure you often teach your grad students how to create those elevator talks, right? But that's the kind of thing. This narrative can be quite interesting and complex, and it actually reflects the diversity of all the faculty that are part of Texas A&M, which is really nice. That narrative, of course, gets written up in the 3-page document that's included in the dossier for tenure and promotion. And I want to make sure everybody knows that I offer individual consultations to help support your tenure and promotion, particularly around metrics that would provide evidence or indicators of the claims in your narrative. Okay, so it doesn't take very long. Usually people are pretty excited when I finish and so on like that. And it generally can make your dossier quite better. So feel free to request that anytime or suggest it to your colleagues. But here's the 4 strategies. And these strategies are all research-based, but they're also based in practice here at A&M. So not only has research shown that these things work, but also my experience here at A&M in our own unique context shows that they work. And the first thing, of course, is you can't have a reputation if you don't have a story to tell the people about what you do, why you do it, and what you think is the impact of your work. And so you got to craft that narrative. Once you have a pretty good narrative, and that of course evolves over time, over the space of your career, you want to make sure that your digital identity reflects that narrative. And your digital identity is essentially, if I start Googling you, what do I find, right? And how easy it is to find your work. Most people learn about your work that way through online sources, right? So they're finding your work whatever it is that you think the story that you're trying to tell, you want to make sure that your digital identity reflects that. The third thing that we advocate is make your work accessible. And I will tell you, this is actually, I think, particularly important for the College of Education. So much of your work is not only building fundamental understandings of how students learn in different contexts, how to better prepare teachers and principals and other administrators for their roles within K-12 and higher education, but it's also it's beyond that fundamental knowledge, right? It's also, you want to improve the state of education in Texas. You want to help whatever is the point of your work, making your work accessible to teachers and principals so that they can get access to it and benefit from it is a huge part of enhancing the impact of your work. And we can help you do that actually quite easily. And then finally, having a rich sense of the metrics that show the impact of your work, I think, is really important. Far too many people on campus have a very, very narrow view of what metrics mean. They might go, well, my total citation numbers are, or I publish in prestigious journals, or my H index is. And I will tell you that that's a really poverty view of metrics around the impact of your work. So I'm going to show you some really cool metrics that perhaps you haven't thought about that might help justify your narratives around with these metrics and so on. So pretty cool. Okay, so let's look at digital identities. First thing, if I would guess, right, just because, if I generally went to the College of Education websites, many of them are out of date. They're just out of date. The information's not as current as it could be. It's hard to update your websites, right? It's just hard to do it. A&M has never made that easy. And why, I just don't know, but it's the state that we live in. So that's a challenge, because if I didn't know you well and use the website to look at what you do, and your website is quite out of date, is that because you're not doing anything, or is that because your website's out of date? I wouldn't know, right? And so generally, websites, if they're hard to update, really want to move on from websites as major tools to present your digital identity to the world. Many scholars on campus find social networks for academics, like ResearchGate or Academia EDU, useful. You can certainly experiment with them. Generally, what you'll find is people in your discipline are either on one or the other, but not both. I found ResearchGate in particular a useful tool to establish contact with scholars in Spain that I had never met, didn't know, but we started following each other. It actually worked. Just remember that ResearchGate and Academia EDU are businesses, right? They're commercial products. And because you can use them for free, who's the product? You are, right? And they're mining your information, and like Facebook and everything else. So they do have some limitations, but we can certainly talk more about them. Social media. Many scholars on campus, around campus, I've been working with lots of them, especially people who want to have more of a public face to their research, have found things like Twitter or other social media actually quite useful. Others have found it a total time sink, right? And so on like that. So in all of these tools, I generally suggest don't try to do everything, because you'll do nothing well. Pick a few. Experiment. If it doesn't seem to be working for you, just stop and don't use it anymore. Some people get a lot of a lot of mileage out of blogs or other narrative tools, especially around works in progress, or if they're trying to reach non-academics, right? It's another good way to do that. It is just one more thing to write, and we are always quite busy in what we're already doing, but certainly do. And then digital identity around curated digital works. This is actually creating digital collections of your work, especially those collections that are open access. Can all be things like this, can help your digital identity and really expand it. The primary tool that the library has worked to develop to help your digital identity is Scholars at Texas A&M. And Scholars at Texas A&M is a research information management system where the library is harvesting most of the data about you for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. And so the idea here is that we find a new publication and we say, hey, look, we found a new publication, congratulations. And all you have to do, yep, that's mine. So Scholars really works really well. And why does it work really well? One is we are fairly accurate in recreating your entirety of your CV and keeping it up to date on many things. Anything we can harvest, right? We can get it, publications and so on like that. And so generally it takes us about 7 days after a publication shows up online for us to find it and get it. So it should be pretty quick. It isn't that hard to have 100% of your work out there. The other thing that we have done is we have really enhanced the search engine optimization. So we're playing games with Google, but that means if you type it, if you build a good Scholars profile, you'll really enhance your ranking in Google searches if you type in your name. And that's a really good thing. And I'll show you it later when I can show you my own trials and tribulations to enhance my rankings for myself. I did include an information sheet on how to enhance your Scholars profile. And it doesn't take a lot of work. Generally, I'm spending about 30 minutes a year to just tweak my profile once I got it in the shape that I liked it in. Also remember the annual evaluation system in the Interfolio software system that the provost office is implementing is harvesting publications out of Scholars to put them into Interfolio for you, so that we're pre-populating your annual evaluation. So if you can make your Scholars profile as accurate as you want, and we can help you if you have any issues at all, then you'll also be helping your annual evaluation, kind of save time, that idea of reharvesting the data and using it over. Okay, good. Any questions or comments from anybody? No? Okay. Nobody's sleeping yet, so I'm gonna keep on moving. Let's look at making your information open access or accessible to the world. And I want to show you some data that I hope will convince you about the potential impact of doing this. It does entail changing the way you publish a little bit, that you have to do a couple extra things. Most people don't find it too difficult, but it is extra. And so you generally want to make sure the cost benefit ratio works for you. But I will show you, COVID research was absolutely the most amazing experiment in scholarly communications kind of ever conducted, because over the last 2 years, COVID-19 research was generally made open access all over the world instantaneously. And it had a huge impact on the speed at which the vaccines were developed and the movement of the science. But it also had a really big impact on the scholarly impact metrics that were generated by the work. And so let me do this, just a couple slides, but the data is really pretty interesting. This was, as you can see, this was a paper from January 24th, 2020. So this is 1 month into the pandemic, news about the virus is just coming out of Wuhan, China. There was one possible case here in College Station, but that's it. And they talked about the Chinese were releasing their research, open access, to share it with the world, because they could see essentially, hey, the pandemic's coming, and we want to get this research out there. And so by February 4th of 2020, so this is the second month of the pandemic, really, the Nature is already saying, hey, publish your work open access, share it. We can see this coming. This is going to be bad. Let's make all our research and our data open access, share it rapidly and openly. And so it took off. And you can see here, so here's, if we look at, this is essentially the confirmed cases. Here's where the WHO declared the pandemic in March of 2020. And by March of 2020, the number of publications released as both journal articles and preprints, which is an article before it's gone through review, and it's published essentially online in a repository. The numbers are increasing very, very fast. And of those preprints, they're going to all kinds of repositories all over the world. And it just increases exponentially there with the rise of the pandemic. So the number of papers really took off that were released open access. Now, if you look at the percentage of COVID-19 preprints published between January and April, right, the percent preprints, they were producing much of the research by preprints. And the reason why is because of time, right? So you could release a preprint almost immediately. As soon as the manuscript is done, you can upload it to a repository like our institutional repository in the library, Oak Trust. And you can release it and it's immediately available to the world. And so time from preprint posting to publication, those preprints still go through peer review. They're usually submitted as manuscripts to journal articles, but those things take time, about 100 days, 150 days to go through peer review, and on average, right? And so you're getting the work out there, and you're bypassing the length of time it takes for peer review. Now, what should be the question that you're all asking, right? Is, of course, what's the problem with preprints? It hasn't gone through peer review, so you don't know if that stuff is any good, right? Well, so if you look at it, in fact, the preprints are fine, generally fine. Some of them are not, right? There were preprints that never got published, but there's not many. Hopefully these figures are big enough for you, but what these figures show is that for most preprints, there were very few changes in the abstract, in the figures and tables, in the content of the article that would materially change the conclusions of the research. So generally, preprints are manuscripts. They're journal articles just at an earlier stage in the process. They do get changed, but not by a lot. And it is a way to share that work both openly and rapidly with the world. Here, what also is interesting is direct evidence that preprints were the way that the world was interacting with science about the pandemic. The number of abstract views of preprints were orders of magnitude more than published articles. And why is that? It's accessibility. The preprints are all open access. The journal articles generally are not, right? They're behind the subscription barriers, and most people could not get access to them. And so you can see here, like early on in the pandemic, The number of views that articles are getting is just around 1,000, and preprints are getting 20,000, 30,000 views. I mean, that's much, much larger impact for the preprints. And it's all around accessibility. Teachers, principals, advocates of educational change or student learning, they don't all have access to the journals you publish in, right? So finding a way to publish the College of Education's work consistently, open access, probably through preprints, which is all free, right, can really enhance the impact of your college and your work for yourself. Sorry, here we go. So we can look at, you can look at citations, you can look at the social media, right, tweets, the number of newspaper articles, the number of blog posts that cited specific research. In all cases, the open access version has greater impact and greater metrics than the published version. And it's all just around accessibility. That's all it is, right? And so the lesson here, COVID research, was a real practical type of research. It was problem-based research, right? It wasn't curiosity driven. This was, we had a problem and we need to study it. And so by releasing that kind of really practical research, they were impacting more than just scholars. They were helping the entire world, both people, journalists, newspaper articles, policy people, and all that kind of stuff. And so the interesting thing, though, around the sharing of all this COVID research was that it was the articles themselves were very important, but probably even more important was the data that underlied the research, particularly the genetic databases of the variants as they emerged around the world, because it was that genetic data that allowed the manufacturers to develop the vaccines so rapidly. And so this idea of moving towards a much more open publishing model, where you're not only publishing your manuscripts openly, but the underlying data or evidence that you use to justify the claims in the articles can really be a game changer in the field. And so, in fact, it was so important that in 2020, by the summer of 2020, the CDC had already created a new repository for genetics around COVID, so that they had one place in the world for it all to go. And so why is this all interesting? Because lots of people have talked about publishing their work open access. Generally, the research shows that open access articles or open access research is cited 2 to 7 times as much as non-open access research. That's true in your college. I checked. It's about 3 times as much. And there's really 2 big models of how to publish our work open access. The first is you can pay an APC charge, an author publication charge, to get your work in an open access journal that does not have charge subscriptions. So the author pays, and the library, as you know, in the past has been a supporter of helping pay APCs for faculty that cannot pay it themselves. Unfortunately, that fund has now gone away, and so we can't do that anymore. But probably the better way and the most common way in the United States is actually publishing preprints in some repository somewhere, so that the preprint itself is available to the world, open access, so it can be discovered through Google. And by far, there are many places you could put educational preprints, definitely, and pick whatever one you think it works well for you if you decide to try this. But if you do use the Texas A&M's institutional repository that we call Oak Trust, you get several benefits. One is my team can help you, right? We can help you do this. The other thing is that if you add documents to your institutional repository, the metadata is harvested automatically in your scholars profile. So you're enhancing the discoverability of your work. that you're sharing that way through your profile. And we collect a fair amount of metrics on those documents to show how they might be impacting the readers and the world in general. But certainly use whatever you want. And I have found faculty all over campus, and I'll show you some examples if you want, but they're really quite amazing how people have used this in different ways. But one of the more interesting ways that you could really enhance the number of publications that you release to the world, kind of build your portfolio, is think about all the non-peer reviewed material documents that you've written for all kinds of things, research reports, right, to funding agencies, information, white papers that you're writing for some group. All of this can be published online through the institutional repository. Essentially use it as a press, use it as a publishing platform, and we can really help. Okay. Last thing, use metrics. And I'm just going to show you just really quick. I'm going to make a case for it. We do have a white paper that I led the writing of. Best practices use scholarly impact metrics, has some of the ideas in here. Feel free to read that if you'd like. But generally, I want to suggest that moving away from just a quantitative counting of citations or other, very austere use of metrics to a much more holistic qualitative assessment of your work really helps enrich the scholarly narrative that you both tell the university and you tell the world. And so I can show you, if you're interested in this, I could go through my own metrics and I could show you this, but something as simple as just using a Google Scholar profile, you can look at a qualitative assessment of citations to start talking about the impact of your work. I believe I did this once with Cheryl, who has just amazingly good metrics. If I remember, I did this once for you, Cheryl, and you're a really good example too. But you can look at things like consistent citations through the corpus of your work. Research has shown that generally about a third to a half of all scholarly papers are never cited in the world. If you are generating citations for most of your work, that's a real indication of this kind of consistently high impact. That's really good. Look at citations through time. Most papers generate citations that are early in its history. Maybe for education papers, I would bet it'd be 2 years after publication, and then it kind of slowly dies out. If you keep citing, if your work gets cited consistently over time, you're starting to identify the standards in the field. Kind of your research has legs, right? Who's citing your work? Look for famous people. Look for people outside your discipline. Is your work affecting disciplines that are outside of your particular niche? Are you affecting people around the world, right? Do you have a global impact? It's really crazy when you do this, but this is what I do for folks during the consultations for tenure and promotion. And it's really fun to watch, for instance, how different scholars have really impacted different parts of the world. All of a sudden, the Europeans are really interested in your work, but over here, it's the Chinese are really interested in yours. And it's always something. And then the last one, right, is almost nobody does this, but you really should. Go and read what other people are saying about your work. Find the papers that are citing your work and see what they say, right? You'll get a much better idea of how your work is influencing others, how they're building their research on your scholarship. And being able to describe that, it makes a very powerful 3-page narrative for tenure, or especially for promotion to full. Good. Okay. I will tell you, there are lots of other and new and interesting metrics that are being developed out there. One of the ones I really want to push and tell you about is field citation ratios that are available through a database called Dimensions that the library has made accessible to the campus. And this is a normalized citation rate. So what this does is it compares the citations in your paper to the average citations of papers in your field. Okay, so one of the fundamental rules about using citations and other scholarly impact metrics is you don't want to compare across disciplines. Why? Why are some fields just generate so many more citations than others? It's all related to the size of the discipline. There, for instance, I will tell you, there are more chemists in the world than there are education faculty. By definition, they will always have more citations than you. It's not an indicator of excellence in any way, shape, or form, the raw number of citations. So this field citation ratio is a normalized citation. It's a ratio. So a ratio of 1 would indicate that your paper is cited about on average the same as other papers in your field. A ratio of 2 indicates that your papers are being cited twice as much as other papers in your field. I will tell you the average citation, the field citation ratio for Texas A&M, I just looked it up yesterday, is 2.53 for the entire campus. So we're actually doing pretty good. But generally, kind of the folks that are doing really well might have citation ratios of 4, 6, 7, something like that, which is really quite amazing. There are also alternative metrics that I think would be particularly useful for the College of Education. So these are engagement metrics that are generated by non-scholars, right? It's not other citations and scholarly research. It's essentially engagement metrics with social media, newspapers, Wikipedia, government reports, all indicators that society at large is taking an interest in your work. And I'll show you, actually, if you're interested, I can show you what the aggregated alternative metrics for the College of Education are. They're actually quite good. If you write books, we can look at, for say, metrics like how many libraries in the world bought your book. You want a real indicator if people think your book's any good? Let's look at sales, right? And then we actually have the ability to search about 50 million syllabi from the United States to see if your work is cited on syllabi for graduate and undergraduate classes. You can actually see if you're reaching the next generation. So as you can see, these are just examples. We have more, but there are, looking at the impact of your work is very multidimensional. Your work is complex. You're a complex person. Complex metrics are best to tell that narrative. One size fits all does not work for all faculty, right? Faculty are trying to do different things. Therefore, different metrics tell that success or not. And finally, here's my contact, just anytime. So how about we stop with this, and I can do demos or answer questions right now if you'd like. And I'll just stop share for a second and just see how you're feeling. It's 10:34, so we have an hour, right?
Yes.
Great. So we have time, and I can show you some really cool things if you'd like. Of course, this is kind of just show and tell, right? So if you have to go or you need to do something else, feel free. But let's just go through it. So questions or comments? Cheryl, what do you think? You're a famous professor in the field. Why don't you leave your younger colleagues?
Well, I learned a lot by what you said. I have sort of learned through osmosis, and I wasn't necessarily
best way forward
at any point, but I certainly latched on to some things along the way, and even latched on to something during COVID. I realized that when I did ARA presentations, people had to say their affiliation and all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, I've got 15 NSF people chasing me from Do you know what I mean? I know
Absolutely.
reading my work. So I would encourage you, if we are online, take a look at who's coming to your presentations. But I had a practical
Yes.
last night. We had a research note, and Andy Kwok and Brendan Bartanen presented their paper from AERJ, which is the top, really top journal. And we had an audience there, and I asked, who's here? And we had lots of people from students from A&M. And then I sort of got off into the states. We had DC, Louisiana, Ohio, and Utah. And then I said, who internationally is here? Oh, Mexico, West Indies, United Arab Emirate, Nepal.
Yeah.
And the Nepal person emailed me and said, I need this stuff right now. I have to leave.
Yes, exactly.
But, send this to me right away. What else can I do as the director of the collaborative to help catapult their work into the world? Now I've got it on the stage. These people know these things. They have the QR to the article, but what else can we do to help their research be better known?
Yeah, so you kind of got the magic words there. I don't know if any of you have experimented with uploading a copy of your presentation before the presentation to a repository like Oak Trust, like here, and then putting a QR code on the last slide that thanks the audience. What you'll see is about half the people in the room will get their phones out and hold them up because they're getting the QR code right from your talk and downloading the talk. You want to be remembered? Allow people to get the talk right away, right? Okay. And then for programs, for centers, for research groups, we can create digital collections that are collections of many digital objects, digital publications in the repository for you, so that you could, say you get this Moroccan educational researcher and they say, hey, I want access to everything right now. Great, here's the link to our digital collection, download as much as you want.
Okay, imagine so that paper after the fact, I still could give it to you, right?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah. So imagine.
And the next one I'll give you ahead.
That's right.
Okay, and so this will help our young scholars and our students.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It will increase the awareness, the reach, the citation development of their work. And you know how long sometimes reviews take in educational journals, right? Well, one of the things you do with preprints is it all goes out immediately. You don't have to wait. So you're generating this impact over time. So we have lots and lots of examples. Can I show you an example?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sorry, everyone else.
Would anybody else like to ask a question? But I have a really good example that I could show you. Just one faculty member in the Department of Communications. We have lots of examples, but this one was really noteworthy in what she did. Okay, I'll show. Okay, this is the repository. That's not the repository. This is Scholars. Sorry. Here's the repository. It's called Oak Trust. It is very, very easy to upload a document into the faculty research or faculty teaching collections. So you can share research related materials. If you are interested in promote, can you see it? Is it big enough? Let's make it bigger. You can also, if you are interested in promoting a narrative around your excellence in teaching, you are also welcome to share teaching materials that you might want to share with other instructors who teach your course. I can tell you what I've seen over and over and over is that this is one of the most interesting ways to reach new faculty in other places who have to teach the same course as you. One of the first things they will do is Google for syllabi or course materials or presentations or anything like that. If they find yours, of course, they're going to use it, right? Because they're desperate. They need to get stuff up and fast. But if we look at this repository, just go up here to log in. It's all with NetID, so it's very And of course, if NetID is working, that would be really good, right? Let's pretend that's working. I don't know what that was. So you just log in, and it's very easy to upload something into the repository. It just asks for the citation, essentially the abstract and so on, keywords. I can generally upload a document on my phone within a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, if I have to. You know, I do it on computer, but not. But let me show you somebody that used Oak Trust in a particularly creative way. And her name's Heidi Campbell. And let me get a better way to do that. I'm going to do advanced search, and we're going to go author, and there you go. Campbell. And we're going to look for something. Heidi is a distinguished professor in communications, and she came to me, and she studies churches, kind of religious communities and so on like that. And she came to me, and there we go. She came to me right at the beginning of the pandemic and said, I am seeing an amazing thing as churches around the world try to go online. And I want to write about this, but I need to release this really fast and in a way that reaches pastors, ministers, church officials, along with scholars. And so I went to her and I talked to her about, why don't we use the repository to publish a non-peer reviewed book, right? An edited volume. And so she wrote this book. And in fact, she wrote it with co-authors all around the world. So it's an edited volume. And it, in about a few weeks, and she released it out really fast. As you can see, it went viral on Twitter. It was actually discussed in a Finnish newspaper article about doing work on going to church online. If we go down to view it, and those are all alt metrics, but if we look at this book has been downloaded 22,000 times since 2020. What's that, a year and a half? That's an amazing impact. And it's been downloaded all over the world. She has come back to me and said, this particular book has had more impact than anything she's ever written on a scholarly press. It had so much impact, the Vatican itself contacted her for advice on how to move Catholic churches online. She couldn't believe it. And so that led her to do about, look what she's done since the pandemic started. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is all publications she's done since 2020 because it took off. She's gotten grant proposals. They created a new international association around this idea. She has collaborated with scholars all over the world. She started just taking her stuff and translating it into Spanish just to have further impact. If we look at this one, 871 times, people all over the world, lots of South America. Really smart. And so it's amazing. And if you go so all of this documents, and if we go to Heidi Campbell in her scholar's profile, come on, there she is. Here's Heidi. And if we go down, we look at publications. First, of course, are her academic articles. you know, and of course, I am not advocating that publishing on the repository is a alternative, and not a substitute for traditionally peer-reviewed articles. You got to publish in peer-reviewed stuff, but you can use it in conjunction. She's published a number of books, and she has all of her documents are added automatically, right, to her CV or profile here, right, all here, and so that people can find them and promote them.
That's great. Bruce, we have a question from Leslie
Yeah.
Simmons from Educational Psychology.
Oh, very good.
Leslie?
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can, yeah.
This is great information. I'm
Thanks.
compiling some resources for faculty that I'm wanting to send out about professional poster presentations. Am I tracking this correctly, that the best practice would be for that if they're wanting to distribute the poster electronically, that they would upload a PDF of the poster to Oak Trust?
Yeah, that's exactly
QR
it.
code to Oak Trust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leslie, what's your position?
I'm a senior administrative coordinator, but I also do kind of marketing and communications.
Perfect.
tasks.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that we can do, if you would like, you know, it's fine with us, it doesn't matter, is that we could give you the rights to upload for them. And you could just—
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So just let's after sometime, just contact me, email me. I'll put my email in the chat. And that way there could be this steady stream of stuff going up. And again, it just goes in as a PDF. And then it automatically gets added to your scholars profile, to their scholars profile. It will get automatically entered on people's Google Scholar profile, because Google is harvesting the information from our repository. It will start generating metrics that will allow the faculty to know how they're extending their reach.
Great. I have another question.
Yeah.
That I don't somewhat related. I'm
No
wanting
worries.
to find a way to pull information possibly out of scholars for our entire department. Is there a way to do that at a group level?
It's actually amazingly easy. So we can do it for you, and so you would work with one of my team members, David Lowe, and he would add our programmer people would just go in and get all the metrics. We can generate departmental and college reports annually, semi-annually, before promotion and tenure time. We can do that kind of stuff. In fact, if I remember correctly, I checked a long time ago, but a dissertation from TLAC was the most downloaded dissertation at Texas A&M. It was on problem-based learning, published around 2013, and it had about 100,000 downloads. Okay, that's not terrible. Yeah,
I have some other questions.
Yes, go ahead. You do what you need to do, Leslie.
So what I'm wanting to do is pull recent publications from all of our faculty in a way where I don't have to go in and search 60 faculty scholar profiles. And then related to, so I would use that maybe in a newsletter type format. The other thing I'd like to know is if there are best practices for publicizing on social media, how I would best, if there are if there's a resource for best conventions to follow when doing that.
Yeah, so all of that is true. So here we're in Scholars. Scholars is a database, and it's fairly easy to pull information from the database, right? And so one of the things you can do is we're on my profile page, and if if you wanted to get like an entire department, so you're educational psychology, Leslie?
Correct, and we do have a category.
Yeah. I didn't actually spell it correctly. Okay, so there's your department with all the people that are part of it, right? And we actually have some metrics for some visualizations for things in EdSite that you can use as your departmental level. We can actually produce a map of the kind of research that you're producing. This is generating where your publications fall on a disciplinary model, which is pretty cool. We can help you generate easily annual lists of the publications of all your faculty, and yeah, we would generate it so it'd go into a Word document or something easily. But let me show you one other thing that we can do, and I want to highlight this. This is a database that's available through the library, and everybody has access to it. And Leslie, I could teach you how to use this in probably about 20 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not very hard. It's called Altmetrics. And what it does is it tracks the alternative metrics for all publications that are listed in Scholars for all of Texas A&M. And it's social media, newspapers, Wikipedia, government policy documents. I think that would be very important for your college. These would be things like Department of Education reports and so on. Are you being cited in ways that might affect policy? And a whole bunch of other things. If you go up to the top here, not only can you search for an individual, you know, you can do some individual person. You can also go by organization. Okay,
Great. This is a layer I've never gotten to.
Yes. So let's show you, because you guys are a very good department. I know the quality of the research that goes on in EdPsych. And if we just look at this, this is a map of the origin of all tweets that cite educational psychology research papers around the world. What I would say, so anything that has color is a place where a tweet has originated. What does this tell you, Leslie? Your department has global impact. If you wanted to actually see the tweets, here's a tweet that was 1.5 days ago. So we're collecting metrics by the hour. And so this is somebody who tweeted something, right? And this is the article they tweeted about. And this article was authored by somebody in the College of Education in the EdPsych department.
That's Dr. Urbelli. She's really active on Twitter.
Yeah. And so a really good example. I will tell you, Facebook is somewhat important. Twitter is probably more important. Let's look at, these are newspaper stories that cite the educational psychology research that discuss it. You want to see what they're talking about, you in Australia? Here's the newspaper story, and one of these is you guys, right? And in fact, so you can actually get access to you can actually see the article if you wanted. And so you can actually see what they're saying to you. But here's something I would bet that your dean would be particularly interested in. These are government reports where the research from your department, Leslie, is being used to generate policy, educational policy. You want to see what you're being discussed in United States, and notice it's 17 hours ago. So we're collecting this stuff. So here's a report from the National Bureau of Economic Research. Can simple psychological interventions increase preventative health? And one of these two, at least, is authored by somebody in your department. This is amazingly interesting data to couple with citations and other metrics of scholarly impact, this kind of societal engagement. Does that make sense? And it's easy. If you go up here and, you know, you can do the College of Education if you wanted. Come on, guys. Up. Trust me, it's easy. What do you think? Does that sound like it's useful to you?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I will tell you, you'll be the most popular person in the department. You start collecting those kinds of metrics for your faculty. Yes, they tend to like it a lot. And
so I think I need to reach out to you after this, but should I talk
of
to you
course,
about social
yeah.
media then as well?
Yeah. So what? So generally, what I have found, and I love doing, is almost everybody has a unique need or problem or issue. Usually, I find just you know, an hour consultation individually. We'll just meet together, and we can. So for if I were meeting with Leslie, I could make sure she could collect much of this information herself. And anytime she needs our help, she knows who to contact. But then also we could talk about, you know, Twitter, you know, what would be ways of enhancing your Twitter so you get more interesting, you know, you just go try to get stuff go viral a little bit more.
That's great, Bruce. I think this is super helpful for all of our faculty individually, but also across each department in our college. And then as you mentioned, also really useful and helpful and powerful metrics and information for our entire college at large, right? So I see this as super helpful and useful, you know, on the individual level, department level, as well as college level.
Absolutely.
So we'll be definitely touching base with you on all of the things that you shared with us. Are there any other questions? We have about 2 minutes left. And Bruce did share handouts that as PDFs that I have in email, and I will be emailing those handouts to everyone in our college, along with a link to this video recording of this session. So those will be made available as well. Yeah. Are there any other questions? We have about 2 minutes left.
If any of you ever feel like you're just a little bit different than the mainstream, that's when these strategies really work well. You know, embracing the diversity of scholarly approaches to real world problems is something that this really helps a lot. So I enjoyed it. Feel free, why don't we end it right here? Reach out if you would like to meet individually. I would enjoy that thoroughly. And we really can meet about whatever topic could be of interest to you. But Leslie, I expect to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Really appreciate your presentation on the useful information. I know you've always been open to working with, you know, everyone at A&M over the, you know, many years that I've known you and others have known you. So I'm sure many people from our college will be reaching out to you awesome. After this presentation.
Sounds great, Jeff. Anytime. And anytime you'd like to have me back, just let me know. Okay.
Great. Thank you. All right.
Everybody have a safe day.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.